Welcome to the WDW Reflections Podcast. Here, we'd love to talk about the Walt Disney World Resort, the way we remember it, how it's changed, and why we still enjoy visiting the most magical place on Earth. So come with us on a podcast journey as we reflect on the WDW Reflections Podcast.
No privacy at all around this place.
Hey y'all, welcome to the WDW Reflections Podcast, your unofficial guide through Disney World and all things Disney memories, and their connections to the parks that we know and love today. I'm Dewey, one of the hosts of the show, and this is episode number 73 of the WDW Reflections Podcast. We thank y'all for being here with us. Before we get into this episode's main topic, we'd like to invite y'all to connect with us through the show's social media accounts. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at WDW Reflections Podcast, and on X at WDW Reflections. And don't forget, for all things WDW Reflections Podcast, head on over to our website at wdwreflectionspodcast.com. All right, with that out of the way, I am happy to introduce, for the first time in a long time, my two co-hosts. With me today are my podcast travel buddies, Ron and Tony, coming to us from the great state of Tennessee. My buddy Ron. How you doing, Ron?
Hey everyone, I'm doing great. I'm excited to finally be here with you guys, and been a lifelong Disney fan, so getting to talk about magic stories and all the little details that you guys love and I love. It's just a lot of fun, so can't wait to dive in today.
All right, Ron. Good to see you, buddy. Been a while.
It has.
And coming to us from New Jersey, my good buddy, Tony G. What's up, Tony?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to see everybody all together again. Looking forward to getting back into the groove of the show.
Yes, before we began recording, we were talking about that a little bit. So those of you that have been listening for a while, you know that my family moved to Central Florida in July of 2025. And we didn't even buy a house until we moved into our house in September. So we were staying with family.
Hey, Tony, here comes the excuses.
Yes, it is. These are all the excuses. It's all my fault. I will take 100% of the blame. When we bought the house, we had to decorate and set everything up. And the room of least importance was the room I'm in.
The room of Dewey.
Yes, my room. That's right.
About time you come to that realization.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
room.
I'll shut up now.
No, you're right. It's it's got all my junk in it. But it was not number one on the priority list, So this room sat empty. It was full of boxes for months and months. And we finally got it set up. I got a new computer. Everything should be good to go. So now that that is all finally happened, you can expect new episodes from us at least monthly, and we're going to try to be maybe doing a new episode every 2 or 3 weeks. So be on the lookout, and please keep liking and subscribing because we've got new content coming. And so guys, I appreciate your patience, not being mad at me for not being around so much, as life was super busy for a while. But now I think we're into a pretty normal routine, and hopefully we'll be able to stay on a schedule now. So listeners, thank you. Thanks for we've been seeing the show is still being listened to and still being discovered by new listeners. So even when we weren't producing new content for a while, so that's amazing. I really appreciate that. And Ron and Ron and Tony, I thank you guys for sticking with me, and I'm excited to be back at it. All right, so now that we got all that out of the way, let's get ready to have this new discussion. So what we want to talk about today is Disney announces a complete reimagining of the Carousel of Progress in Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland. So guys, before we even get started, I'm sure you've heard the news and you've read all the articles and watched YouTube videos and all that stuff, right? You're all um, up to date and everything on the new Carousel of Progress announcements.
I am, yeah.
So I've heard the announcements. I've not heard the complete reimaging of it. I did know that they're
Ah,
going to be doing it, so I'm looking forward to the discussion this morning.
One of the sites that I tend to go to for information that I think is well researched and accurate is the one with Jack with the Walton Years, unfortunately DSNY podcast, and he had access to some production paintings and things that he went over there. So that's where I got my info.
so yeah, so today we're going to talk about Walt Disney, one of Walt Disney World's most beloved attractions, and one that has been quietly spinning at Tomorrowland for over 50 years, Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. So be honest with me, guys. When you guys visit, is this a must do for you? Is it we did it last time, I'm not going to worry about it today? Or is it, I don't even care about this thing. I haven't seen it in 10 years. What do you think, Tony?
It's a must do for me. We always do it.
Awesome. What about you, Ron?
So it's not a it's high on the priority list. It's when it was first announced that it looked like it was maybe going away, we did it intentionally did it a lot. Um
That's right. That was about 20 years ago or so now.
yeah.
Right.
And it's one of my favorites, but it doesn't always make it we don't always get to do it. But and it's still it's not always open.
You
And so
really?
when we were over there the last time, it wasn't running, but we do it a lot. We love it.
Well, there was a time when we almost lost it, that it
Yeah.
was going to be bulldozed. And thankfully, somebody had a brain over at Walt Disney, WDI or whatever, and it was saved. And they've been talking about doing something with it for years and years. And then just a couple of years ago, they did make a couple of, I mean, I wouldn't even really call it updates. All they did was put on some new clothes for a
Tweaks.
couple of people,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
They got the son got got his old 90s polo replaced with the shirt from the defunct uh now I'm trying to remember how I should say this. The place that was never built in the ski resort in Colorado. He's wearing that. The one of them, I think it's also the son, is wearing slippers with the reindeer from the Christmas parade on it and stuff. And then the dad, John, is wearing an apron that says "My Food Rocks," making a reference to the old Food Rocks. And that's the closest thing to an update that they've made since the 90s on that thing. So, but it was relatively close to being lost forever. So I'm glad that that didn't happen because since we live here now, we do this almost every time we go to the Magic Kingdom. Just when you're not under the pressure to do everything in the park every time you go, then it allows you just to kind of just do the things you want to do or do nothing. Sometimes we do nothing. We'll just go in the park and eat and go home or something. So, um, Carousel of Progress is usually a must do. Almost every time we go to the Magic Kingdom, we do Carousel of Progress and the People Mover. So, glad that we didn't lose it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Disney recently announced a major reimagining of the attraction, and it's set to debut in 2027. And honestly, this may be the biggest update the attraction has received since 1994 refurbishment, when it went from, I mean, it sat there for 20 years after it was brought to Disney World in 75. It nothing changed until 94. And then it's been sitting there like this for over 30 years. So pretty crazy. Disney has confirmed the new introduction will feature Walt Disney himself, um, with new decades, updated story scenes, and significant technology upgrades throughout the attraction. So today we're going to walk through the current version of the attraction, scene by scene, discuss what Disney has announced for the future version, and then give our thoughts on whether these changes are a great big beautiful idea or not. So let's just do a quick history. Before we get into the changes, let's remember what the Carousel of Progress represents. We're just going to do a quick recap because we've previously done an entire in-depth episode on the entire history of the Carousel of Progress on episode 33, way back in July of 2022. So if you haven't listened to that episode, maybe you want to go listen to that one first. So that's episode 33 of the WDW Reflections podcast. But here's a quick recap. This attraction debuted at the 1964-65 New York World's Fair as part of General Electric's Progress Land Pavilion. It was personally championed by Walt Disney and introduced guests to rotating theater experience that showcased how technology transformed everyday American life. And that's important because Walt never intended for this attraction to be frozen in time. The whole point was that progress continues. Disney has even stated that Carousel of Progress was designed to celebrate change, not stand still. So the current show scenes begins with scene number one, and that is at the turn of the century. The current attraction begins around 1900. We meet John and Sarah and their family as electricity is becoming common in the home. John talks about new inventions, he talks about Thomas Edison, and even jokes about those Wright brothers in North Carolina that will never get their flying machine to work. The scene perfectly captures the optimism of America at the dawn of the 20th century. The electric lights come on, the family is excited about indoor conveniences, and Uncle Orville is already providing comic relief. Scene two is when we jump into the roaring 20s. Electricity has become standard. It's no longer a new thing. It's just same old, same old. The family now has modern appliances. The radio has become a centerpiece of entertainment in the family home, and Sarah has moved from doing endless household chores to embracing some of the convenience of modern living. The scene always feels like America stepping into the modern age. Scene number three, we jump into post-World War II 1940s. The family is enjoying a much more comfortable lifestyle. There's a refrigerator, better kitchen technology, and the family gathers around to listen to entertainment and news. This scene really captures the booming optimism of post-war America in the 1940s. And then the last scene, scene number four, is Christmas in the House of 2000. So we're jumping from the 40s into the 90s. So 1994 to be exact. We see virtual reality, voice controlled devices, video communication, home automation, and other futuristic gadgets. The funny thing is that many of those technologies, if not all of them, are no longer futuristic. Video calls, voice assistants, smart homes, we've got them. They're everywhere, right? They're in our phones. We carry them with them. They go with us everywhere we go. It's just it's no longer futuristic if while you're sitting in the theater watching it and the device that's currently in your pocket can do all those things, you know?
Hmm.
So all of those things are completely normal, but you figure this came out in 94. It's now 26. I mean, the future caught up and then, past it, which is exactly why Disney has decided it was time for another update. We've known this for a long time, but Disney has finally figured it out. We all know this has been needed for a long time since the scene that was originally meant to represent the future has looked outdated for well over a decade now. But we understand how tricky this one is, considering that this is a beloved attraction, and many people, myself included, find it hard to let go of OG Walt Disney World attractions. But we say it here on the show all the time. many, many times, in fact. We'd rather they refurbish an attraction than to just destroy it. So we're looking on the bright side, right? We are excited that we're not losing the attraction, and excited that new things are on the horizon. So, so that's the old version, guys. Now, Tony, I'm Ron, both of you, but I know we've talked about this before. We talked about it in episode 33, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Did both of you see the attraction from the 70s, 75 to 93, the one with the Now Is the Time music?
Yes. Yeah,
Ron,
that
you
was the
got to see
first
it
one I
too?
saw. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, me too. I grew up with that one as a kid, so I remember when the current version um, debuted. This was before the internet, so we went to Disney. My brother graduated high school in '94, so we went there for his graduation trip. My family did, and I remember seeing the show, and I was like, what's this new song? What's this great big beautiful
Hmm.
tomorrow? I had no idea that it was actually the original song. They just brought it back. But so I've got a warm, soft spot in my heart for the original Disney World version with Now Is the Time. But either way, it's exciting that we've got this new version coming. So what's coming in the new version is Disney has announced that every show scene is being updated with new time periods that modern audiences can better relate to. So I think that's the wording that's important. The Disney felt that modern audiences, so I guess you could say like my kids' age, people in their 20s or so, and even younger kids aren't really identifying with the 1900s. I don't even think that modern history classes really barely even talk about the Wright brothers. The airplane is 125 years old now, so it's not really something they talk about. So just little things like that, the little jokes about the Wright brothers, and they'll never get that thing to work, that kind of stuff really kind of just goes over the heads of people born during this century in the last 25 years. Probably doesn't really matter to them a whole lot. I am a high school teacher, and I could tell you that today's youth know absolutely nothing about World War II, which was one of the single transformative events in human history, and it's barely a blip on the radar for people born in the 2000s. They know nothing about it. Um, Today's students, and with the very rare exception, today's students know almost nothing about history.
Well,
Um,
probably because it's all instantaneous. I mean, that happened when? Oh, okay, here it is.
when's the last time you saw a TikTok about World War II?
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody's making World War II TikToks, and that's the only place that this generation goes for content. TikTok, you might find it on YouTube, but you got to search for it, and the kids aren't. So, and I'm an OG history guy. That's what my undergrad degree is, in history. So I'm passionate about it. So but I can understand that from a fun Walt Disney World attraction point of view, it maybe doesn't make a lot of sense to be talking about, something that happened 125 years ago. They barely talk about it in history class, so why are we going to talk about it in a Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom attraction? That's what the Hall of Presidents is for. So right? So I get the perspective, and to be honest with you, and this may surprise you, I'm not really mad about it. New and improved Dewey is trying to embrace change a little bit better than I have in the past.
I think
So
I think Florida has warmed up his his heart a little bit and he's actually not as grumpy. Is that possible?
Listen, every time I say or do something nice, my students say, "The Grinch's heart is growing."
Oh my.
That's yeah.
These are new students for that matter.
Oh yeah, I've been with them for a year now, so they know. So yeah,
Well, to
so
hear his real feelings on the matter, go back to episode 33 and
right, yeah. Trying to be a kinder, gentler Dewey. Florida is chilling me out.
it's good.
I'm trying to, the old saying, stop and smell the roses. I'm trying to do that, trying to appreciate things more. So the new version, let's go through the new scenes. So probably the biggest headline is that guests will be greeted by Walt Disney himself. So the new introduction to the new show will be a Walt Disney animatronic, audio animatronic. And if you pay attention to anything going on at Disneyland, you know that this animatronic has already debuted at Disneyland. Tony, I believe you saw it, right? When you
No,
went
we didn't
out
get to
there.
see Walt.
You didn't see
We
it.
saw
Okay.
Lincoln.
Okay. I know it's in the same theater and they
Yeah.
rotate the shows, right?
Hmm.
So the idea of a Walt Disney animatronic is not brand new, but it's the first time it's going to be in Disney World.
And it's going to be a different one than the one that was over there. It's the one here is based on the video of him talking about the Carousel of Progress. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. The one in Disneyland is a younger version of
Yeah,
him. Is that
I think
correct?
he was
Oh,
older, but he doesn't look the same. He was older. It
Yes.
was toward the end of his years.
This one definitely is. It's based on the video that you see
Where he's
him
wearing
with
a
the
blue
Sherman
sweater.
brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Disney will add a new audio animatronic Walt Disney in an opening scene inspired by Walt's 1964 television special, Disneyland Goes to the World's Fair, which we all know now is famous for introducing and talking about all the amazing things that Disney had planned for the World's Fair in 1964. So that's where the Lincoln animatronic debuted. That's where It's a Small World debuted. That's where Carousel of Progress debuted. I mean, so many things that are now staples in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland parks all around the world. A lot of those debuted at the 64 World's Fair. So that is a very important piece of Disney history. Walking into Carousel of Progress and having Walt personally explain the importance of innovation and optimism before the show begins is how we will be introduced to this Walt Disney animatronic. And that's pretty powerful, but can also be a controversial decision and one that many Disney fans are on opposite sides of. Maybe that's died down a little bit now that it's actually debuted in Disneyland and it's been there for a year or so. But there was a lot of negative discussion about having a Walt Disney animatronic when it was first announced. But the Parks Division have the blessing of the Disney family to use the likeness of Walt Disney in an animatronic form. So if the family consents, then who are we to disagree, right?
And
I think
he was a big fan of doing that with like what he did with all the presidents. So
absolutely.
I don't think he would have necessarily minded. I don't think he considered himself to be on that same level as the presidents he was making those characters out of. So
Absolutely.
I think that's probably, if anything, that was that, but he certainly is.
He was a big lover of history and
Yeah.
revered, especially Abraham Lincoln was his
Yeah.
favorite president. So he certainly would not consider himself, audio animatronic worthy, but
Hmm.
he's almost grown into a larger than life persona now. I read somewhere that many people don't even realize that Walt Disney was a real person. They think
Right.
of him as
It's just a
like
name.
a fictional, like
Yeah.
Ronald McDonald or something, like a spokesperson for the company that was created or something. But um, you know,
And,
back to our history, people not understanding history.
yeah, that's sad but true, my friend.
and I also think I prefer to see an animatronic rather than what they did a couple of years ago when they were doing that touring exhibit where they had him as a hologram. I think an animatronic, as far as Walt Disney goes makes more sense. Do you
I
remember that? Do you
think
remember that exhibit that was going around? He was a hologram that showed up.
I think you're right, Tony. And I think that hologram thing was probably like dipping the toe in the water,
Yeah.
testing the and seeing how people would react before they're like, before we go and build this audio animatronic of Walt, we should probably make sure it's not going to freak people out.
Hmm.
So let's try this hologram thing. That was probably just testing the waters if I was to make a guess. So that's the introduction, the Walt Disney animatronic. I think that sounds super cool. So the new scene number one is a jumping all the way to the 1960s. So no more 1900, no more 1920s, no more 1940s. The first scene will be in the 1960s. In this new iteration of the Carousel of Progress, the first family scene will move forward to the 1960s. Disney has specifically mentioned the excitement surrounding the Apollo program and the 1969 moon landing. That instantly creates a stronger connection between American progress and one of the greatest technological achievements in human history. In this scene, the family gathers around the TV in the July 1969 uh, to watch the historical moon landing. The description of the scene immediately has me thinking about the scene depicting the same event in Spaceship Earth. So, did you guys have that thought too?
Yeah. But actually the first thought I had is I can't believe they're going to be depicting something I actually remember doing.
So you remember the moon landing?
Yes, I do remember. I was only 4 or 5 years old, but I do
Yeah.
remember the excitement around that time. I can't believe this ride is going to start around the time that I actually in my lifetime. It's a ride of my lifetime.
It's
That's a
exactly my lifetime.
And you too,
It's
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't remember it vividly, but I definitely remember it enough that I remember it being a huge,
It was
huge
huge.
deal.
We all went to school
And
thinking we wanted to be astronauts the
yeah,
following fall.
yeah.
So I was born in 74, so unfortunately I missed out on all that fun. Um, but
Hey, Tony, I
yeah,
think he just called us old.
nope. I completely avoiding any reference to.
No,
I'm speaking
I think the
purely
ride did that. The ride's done that on its own.
right. Yeah, don't blame me. I'm
Speak about these ancient
specifically.
times, fellas. Here you go. Wait,
Well,
I remember that.
I'm not going to say ancient times because it was only a couple of years before me, so that would make me ancient adjacent. So we're still not going to say it.
Well, we're gonna get to you in a second, I think.
Yes, we will. We will get to me. But so like in my brain when they announce this, I'm thinking the scene that's in Spaceship
Hmm.
Earth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's literally the family of four sitting on the couch and I think one of the one of the kids is laying on the floor playing with a Saturn V rocket while they're watching the moon landing. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how Disney differentiates this scene from the one from Spaceship Earth and obviously elaborate on it because in Spaceship Earth it's just passive. We all we do is we see them watching it. We're watching it through their eyes, I guess. We
That's a
get
very
to
good point because now that they've gotten rid of John as the narrator, so to speak, or that we know of, so is Walt going to be talking over the scene, or is he going to? He can't appear in that scene. So,
so I actually touch on that
oh, okay.
in the next era. So yes, I mean maybe, and this is me hoping for too much probably, but I'm hoping this will be a catalyst for Disney to go ahead and make some changes and finally do that refurbishment of Spaceship
Yeah,
Earth.
updated
That,
a bit.
since we can't have the same scene in two parks and two attractions, right? So it's time to redo
And they're
that.
connected a bit. So,
Yes. I mean, we were supposed to get a Spaceship Earth refurbishment with this new Epcot that we
yeah.
have now, but it was canceled. One of the things that was canceled because of COVID.
Hmm.
So Um, that thing has been going since I think 95 or so also, this version of Spaceship Earth. So it's ready, it's due. So
And
maybe
as you mentioned,
now,
especially that final scene where it's just blackness for whatever many
yeah,
minutes.
it's yeah. And listen, and where I'm getting way off topic here,
Yeah,
but Spaceship Earth is one that we do a lot because we usually hit it when we're leaving the park at Epcot. And listen, it's the same questions at the end of that ride that it has been for 25 years or 30 years or whatever. I'm not good at math. But if they're not changing anything in that ride, they could just change that. Just change the little animation at the end and add a new question,
yeah.
Because do you prefer the country or the city? It's all the same questions. And I every time I go, I'm like, did I do this one ever before? And it's impossible to get a version of that you haven't already got. It's just so. Um, Getting off topic here, but I hope that since they're adding this 1969 specifically, the moon landing, since that scene is coming to Carousel of Progress, I hope that means that we might eventually get some kind of change to the spaceship Earth. That would be nice. But so that is um that's the scene number one, the 1960s. So the new scene number two is going to take us right into the 1980s. So we're jumping about 20 years.
Now,
This,
now Dewey gets to feel the pain.
yes, this is now look, I was born in 74. So by the time the 80s rolled around, I was six. I guess you could say in the 80s I was six to 16. So this era will focus on growing technological conveniences and the rapidly changing lifestyle of the American family. Think personal computers, video games, microwaves, cable television, technology becoming part of everyday life. This scene, much like the 1940s scene and the original, or not the original, but in the current version, this will also be set on Halloween night in 1985. This scene
85.
features Sarah taking center stage as the host or the narrator of this scene. She's going to be talking about the latest gadgets. This is a departure from all previous versions of the show, where John, the patriarch of the family, is the main character and the main narrator throughout the show. While Sarah narrates this scene, John hands out Halloween candy, and Uncle Orville will still be complaining about bathroom privacy. At least some things never change, right? So it's good to know that we're not going to lose, some of the humor, some of the Uncle Orville content that's still going to be around.
And look, he's got a walk-in shower now. No privacy.
So 1980s, that'll be cool. That's it's funny that that's only a few years before what's currently the futuristic scene. So if you think about it, I read
The
something
future
the
is
other
past
day.
now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I read something the other day that we're currently right now in 2026 the same distance away from the 80s
Oh,
as people in the 80s were from World War II.
yes, this is true. From the
And
end of World War II.
yes, and uh, that's just crazy to me. I
Hmm.
don't I don't even have words to say how crazy that is to me. But unfortunately, it's true. And when I think the 80s, I think 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah,
But
right.
in my brain, but it's way way more than that, unfortunately. So that'll be cool. For me, the 80s were the biggest part of my life, like I said, from 6 to 16. So I remember the 80s, I remember those years of my life. So
You
I
know
think
what's
that's going to
odd
be fun.
too, and not to interrupt, and I'm probably going to take us down a tangent, not intentionally, but when you talk to people from that era, like because of the impact to finances and things. People respond differently still. My mother-in-law is still very attentive of not having, and so she tends to hold on to things and just has a different perspective on life in general. I think and that's what I like about this carousel of progress is that it let us see the past. And I don't know, I just really like history for one, and I like how it portrayed, and it just that kind of hit me when you were talking about it, that we're not that far, we're further removed from 1980 than what we
Yeah.
realize. And the correlation I'm trying to say is that if you grew up in those individuals not being that removed from World War II, it helps you understand their perspective of looking on life and where we as Americans have lost some of the honor and respect for what people paid for us to be here.
And that's, yeah, I mean, me being the history guy, I agree with you, completely agree with you. Now, so you mentioned your mother-in-law, and are you
Yeah.
saying that when we remember the 80s with a lot of nostalgia. We
Nostalgia.
love the 80s. Are you
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
your mother-in-law does not see the 80s in the same manner?
Oh
In the
no, I was
40s,
meaning that she remembers,
the 40s.
she remembers of, the 40s and
Okay.
well back, and views life a lot differently because of, I'm just making a correlation that now she kind of makes sense now that me thinking back to the 80s is the same as her thinking back.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Absolutely.
wow, okay, so I can see some of the where she's coming from.
Yeah.
Probably 50s and 60s for her, right? Vietnam era and stuff like
Right.
that, I'm guessing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the 80s will be fun. I hope they really do it up, and I hope the kids are wearing like neon. You remember how neon was big in the
Sure.
80s and
Hopefully
stuff.
they've got big old hair out there.
Yes,
And
yes. I hope they
um
really, really lean into that and make that like maybe they'll have like the son will have the flock of seagulls haircut or
No,
something, you know.
goodness.
You
well,
know
yeah,
that
the thing is though is that the you can make it as crazy as you want, and the reality is this generation is going to be like, was it really like that? And it really was. I mean,
Yeah.
you can anything will
Yeah.
go in that, but
absolutely. That's going to be fun. I mean, the 80s, they're better. And listen, do you think they do, since Disney owns Star Wars, do you think that there's got to be Star Wars should probably be on the
you
TV in the
know they
background
will.
or
Well,
something?
not the TV.
You
It
know
wasn't
they
on
will.
TV yet, but probably some kind of poster or some kind of amalgam.
Well, I mean, in 85, all three movies were out, so they were
That's true.
definitely on TV.
Well,
Um,
I had it on video, on
on
video back then.
VHS.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
not VHS. I used to have a Laserdisc player back then.
Oh, look at
That's
you.
how
You were
old.
fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never had a laser disc.
Yeah.
Me neither.
I
But
wanted a laser disc, but I never
I
had one.
still have, I think I still have, they do, it's right over here. I have my Star Wars VHS three packets over here on my bookshelf. Um, so that's, goes way back.
But yeah,
But
we've got that's a perfect example. But definitely, they have to represent the VHS
yep, absolutely.
revolution.
There's got to be like
Disney VHS kind of came out at that time.
I have a box of Disney VHS tapes. They're probably worth nothing, but I still have it. But yeah, there's got to be probably, you remember those old fake wood laminate video VHS
Oh yeah,
stands where you put all your VHS
yes.
tapes? There's got to be one of those sitting beside the TV or something. That would be super
And
cool.
my
But yeah.
friends are listening to this new thing. It's called punk rock. It comes from England.
So look, so let's talk about this for a minute. The 1960s, there's definitely going to be a record player
The
uh,
hippies are
on
still
there,
around.
right? What kind of things can you expect to see in the scene? And
69 probably fashion. Definitely, yeah.
hippie stuff,
hippie
tie-dye,
stuff. Yeah, whatever the Brady's were wearing at that time.
bell bottoms, probably some bell
Yeah.
bottoms. That's
Bell
probably late
bottoms, yeah.
60s, early
A lot
70s.
of plaid,
All
polyester.
the wood and stuff, the furniture, the house is going to be all paneling and all that kind of stuff, probably.
We have a
Um,
Power.
new Volkswagen that fits the entire family, you know.
okay, so how about the 80s? Well, I already touched on the neon. I know neon was really popular with kids. Like the Miami Vice look. You
Oh
remember
my
Don
goodness,
Johnson and
yes,
Miami
that's
Vice?
right. That's right. In
Um,
fact, I was just looking at a picture yesterday that we took in 1986, 87, and of
If
my
they
nephew.
do the
He's
home,
got the whole jacket on,
hmm
the shiny jacket.
I
What were you
think you'll
saying, Ron?
see some differences in the home. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you'll see wallpaper with the mauves and teals, um, which was really, really popular then.
hmm
Where are we doing her room?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see, especially for me, especially the 80s, because the 80s is going, transformative decade, I guess,
Well, it's the
for.
music generation, the MTV, the whole
Oh
transformation
yeah,
of the teenager.
Dude, I
that.
can still remember where I was when Thriller came
Yeah,
previewed on
yeah,
MTV.
yeah. Me too. I remember that day.
So maybe MTV, maybe there'd be a reference to that. That was huge. By 85, it had been on 3 or 4 years. So definitely, definitely probably going to see or, something to that. Because they talk about cable television,
Yes, I
so
mean that was my world, 1986.
yeah,
So
I remember only having 3 channels. So cable TV
yeah,
was huge at that point in the
yep.
mid 80s. So that'll
I
be
could see
fun.
him I could see him focusing on the 3 channel deal. Because that's everybody from our generation, that's we relate to that.
That's exactly it. They're giving us this new box that gives us 30 channels,
Yeah.
and
Listen,
TV will be on all day and night.
to this day, I still call the remote for a TV, I still call it a channel box
Really?
because our first cable TV came with a box and it was literally about the size of a Kleenex box, about
Hmm.
this big,
Yeah.
probably 10 inches long, 6 inches wide, probably about 4 or 5 inches tall,
Yep.
and it had 50 numbers on it, and they were analog. So you had to push
Yep.
1, 2, 3, and then it had a toggle switch at the top to go from 1 through 50. You would hit that, push that switch down, and it was 51 to 100.
So you had to physically get up from your seat and push it on the
No,
box.
it had a cord on it,
Ah,
like, and the cord was about 20 feet long. So you could run this channel box and we would just like set it on the couch beside us. And there, you literally had to push every button to go to the next channel. It was wild.
well,
But
you're just reminding me as well. As I mentioned earlier, my previous long-term employment, and I mentioned in episode one, I come from the cable TV world. In New York City, it didn't come to New York until 1986. I was among the team that brought it there. And one of the things that before that, I got involved with editing some shows for the local public TV show that would be shown on the public TV channel on cable. And I literally had to use one VCR here. And at that time, they were called videotape recorders, VTRs, not even VCRs. One giant VCR here, one giant VCR here, and I'd have to record from there to edit something and then put it on the set. So you're making me remember this.
so the 80s is going to be fun. That's going to
Yes,
be a fun one to, as much as I hate to admit that's history and it's in the past and it's so far away from where we are now that
it
in order
is.
for in order to make today's youth
Yeah.
understand it, it's going to be an era visited in this attraction. That's still hard for me to admit and come to terms with, but
But
it's
will
going to
they
be
feel
a
the
lot.
nostalgia that we do? Like we're remembering that because we lived it. Will they feel that same sense of nostalgia or will they care?
Listen, the 80s are already popular.
That's
I mean,
true. That's true.
um,
As
both of
predicted in
my
I
Back to the
think
Future
kids.
80s are the
too.
new 50s.
Yeah.
I
Everybody just
agree.
embraces them.
I think you're right. Both of my kids collect albums, like record albums. Um,
You
both of
had
my
mentioned
kids,
somebody like tapes at one point, didn't they?
uh,
Your daughter?
they're less popular. They're not as readily available. Which is crazy. I don't even know what happened to my cassette tapes. I had a million of them, and I guess they were thrown away at some point when I joined the Air Force and moved away. I left a lot of stuff in my parents' house. Um, and obviously, I joined the Air Force in '97, so um, I had moved on to CDs by that time anyway. So the cassettes have probably been thrown out since then. But so many records and albums still exist or survived to this day. Um, and the younger this generation, I hated records and was excited, especially I was excited for cassettes, but even more so for CDs because of
Yeah,
how clean it sounded.
Yeah, we didn't have that scratchy sound.
Right, but my kids both have record players and both
because they
love
like the
playing
scratchy
albums.
sound.
They like that, and I'm like, we were.
You have no idea how hard we worked to get
Yeah.
away from the scratchy sound,
That's
and
what
now
I'm
you want
saying.
the scratchy.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I was like, we thought it was, but humans have achieved something
Yeah.
unachievable because we've taken the scratches and pops out of music, and I can stream anything I want now, and I just type it in my phone and it's
Yep.
there. But you
Instantaneously.
guys are buying records and just listening to those scratches and pops. It blows me away. But they love the 80s. My son especially is a big audiophile, loves music, plays bass guitar. And he's even big into like his favorite band right now is the Grateful Dead. So, the 60s and the 80s was kind of their heyday. Um, so there's already some nostalgia for the 80s with this younger generation right now anyway. So I think that they will connect. They're definitely going to connect with the 80s much more than they did the 20s and the 40s
Yeah.
in the previous versions. I definitely think that. Um, but I'm really excited for the 80s. I think that's going to be super cool.
Can I just make a quick side note based on what you just said about 30s and 40s? As I mentioned to you, I was just in Orlando at Universal Studios, and in Islands of Adventure, they still have that one section that's dedicated to the old newspaper comic toon characters, which as you walk there, even people from our generation, all those things now seem very, very archaic. I mean, that I think if anything in that park needs to be refreshed, it should be that because newspapers aren't even printed anymore, and those characters don't really mean anything to these kids anymore, or really to us.
Like Blondie and
Beetle
Dagwood
Bailey,
and Beetle. Yeah,
all those kind of
absolutely.
people.
Well, again, not to get too far off topic, but that they're not even thinking about that section right now because you
Hmm.
know that
The other
they're currently
expansion.
demolishing the Lost
Yeah,
Continent.
yeah.
So, yeah, I bet eventually something happens to that area, but not right now. So the 80s are going to be awesome. I can't wait to see that actually. So the new scene number three is going to take us about 15 years later, and it's going to be celebrating New Year's Eve specifically, in 1999. So I think this is particularly interesting. Disney says we'll visit the family on New Year's Eve 1999 as the internet age begins. It's transforming everyday life. So think turn of the millennium. And remember Y2K and all that
Y2K.
stuff,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
This scene is just begging for at least one Y2K joke.
Absolutely.
There's no way they're not going to make a
Oh, they
Y2K
have to.
joke,
Yeah.
right? In
Yeah.
this scene, Grandpa falls asleep early, and Grandma secretly sneaks the TV over to watch the wrestling show. Just I think it was boxing in the current version, so maybe sort of like a little throwback, still kind of sticking with that. Grandpa's sleeping, Grandma is watching. And in this case, I guess it's going to be like WWF or something, Hulk Hogan or something in the 90s. I'm not sure. Um, Something like that, probably.
Do you guys
Um,
remember where you were for that
Mhm.
New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I do.
So I mean, yeah, I was stationed in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I was in the Air Force. And actually, so my wife and I met in 1999.
Okay.
And we met at Disney World in September of 99. And so by this would have been our first New Year's together. We were living together in Biloxi, Mississippi. I
So
can
you
remember
remember
that.
it you don't necessarily remember it because of 2000 though.
Listen, all the Y2K stuff, I remember this because, uh, and this is how far computers have come in, this in my lifetime. I was an EMT. I was a medic in the Air Force. And so in 99 I was working in a hospital. I was working on a ward, a general medicine ward. And it was 24-hour operations obviously because it's a hospital. And all of us med techs, and we had 6 or 8 on a shift, and you figure we did 12. So there was 6 or 8 of us or so on the day shift, and then 6 or 8 on the night shift. There was one computer for all of us med techs to share, and we were required to check our email at least once a day. So in 99, I didn't have a computer at home. So I really, the Y2K thing wasn't really didn't really impact me that much. I wasn't thinking about it a whole lot because I didn't have a computer, and the only one I did use was just to check Air Force email once a day on shift. Um, that was um, my Y2K. Didn't really seem to affect me a whole lot.
Yeah. So
Um,
I worked in the tech field in a hospital, surprisingly, and we had to put generators, and we were all on call for that whole
Oh,
period. So we had a shift, and I worked the night shift. So I was spent sitting at a hospital by myself, waiting for the phone to ring that never rang.
So on New Year's Eve, 1999, you were working in the tech field because they expected Y2K to shut everything down
Yep,
yeah.
we had two generators shipped in just to keep the lights and everything operational in the hospital,
just in case the world
just
stopped
in
at
case the
Y2K.
world stopped.
That's
Our family was all together just in case that. I remember that.
that's crazy. I know.
It was a real threat. There was
Yeah.
so much money spent headed into Y2K that the tech services world blew up
Yeah.
because you had people having to replace different modules and things in software and PCs. And because if you remember, and maybe we've already touched on the fact that maybe our listeners aren't history buffs either, but when PCs were first um, developed, they only had room for a two-digit. Um, well, they either only had two digits for the year, or they only went up to 19. It was primarily that it was a two-digit though, and so when it flipped, it would be 1900 instead of 2000.
and you know what? That's did and I know that that existed, and I've always thought how short-sighted that was. Like, did they not think that, hey, these computers will probably still be around in 2000? When they
It just
designed
was
them, it just
forethought, poor
uh,
forethought.
crazy. But as we
And
all know
even now, I
now,
mean, if you think about it, so what? It's 1900, but that means a lot from date calculation. So
it's you said the 1900s, and talking about history,
yeah, we're from
whenever
the 1900s now instead of
dude, my students get just think it's hilarious. They'll ask me, how old I am, what year I was born, and I'll tell them 1974, and they're like, "You're from the 1900s?"
Uh,
They're referring to the 1800s the way
yeah,
we did,
yeah.
talk about like the Old West or the Civil War or whatever. And I'm like, hey, y'all need to relax. 1900s was just 26 years ago. We're not talking about ancient history, you know, but that's how they see it. It's like it was, they're so far removed from the 1900s. It's just fascinating. So that'll be fun. So let's talk about the 1900 scene or 1999 scene. Probably, I remember one of the really big things I was so excited for um, when we got married and we got married in 2000. But when we did our wedding registry, the one of the thing I was most excited for was getting a DVD player. So in that was in 2000. I didn't have one yet, and they were pretty expensive, still 300 or 400 bucks. So when we did our wedding registry, I was really excited, hoping I would get a DVD player. So I bet there's probably a reference to DVD replacing VHS or something like that in 99. 99 cell phones were becoming more popular. So I'm sure that they'll talk about the dawn of the
Well,
cell phone
definitely
or something.
the computer generation started, and
Absolutely. Um, Absolutely. So, what are some other things you think we'll see in, like I said, we know that they're going to mention Y2K because they have to be, maybe they have candles sitting on the counter just in case the electrical grid goes out or something, and when it flips to midnight or something. Um, but
and Uncle
I,
Orville's cell phone goes off, and he goes, "No privacy."
I bet so. Disney owns ABC, and ABC airs Dick Clark's
Yeah.
Rockin' New Year's Eve every year.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
my
you know they'll be
money,
here.
I can't
I
remember if
bet.
Prince performed his song or not. I don't remember.
Oh, in the 1990, there's no way Prince is dead, but I doubt Prince would give him
Right.
the rights to use it in an attraction. But I bet we see Dick Clark on the TV doing the countdown, with the ball and everything.
Sure.
I bet that's on the TV in the background. Um, I don't have as much of a
Well, the
as
90s in that
memories.
era, all the boy groups
Oh,
started up.
yeah, all the boy bands and stuff. Let's hope they don't add that. That's awful.
Well, it's a big
Um,
part of Orlando history, unfortunately, though.
yeah, let's just forget about boy bands. That's better left to history. Um, but I don't have as much as a connection. I don't feel as much of a connection to
Well,
99 or
because
whatever.
99 feels like it was just like a couple years ago.
And I was an adult and
Yeah.
working and I was in the Air Force by that time. So fun had already ended, I was no longer enjoying freedom of being young and all that. I had responsibilities and all that stuff by then. So and then the new scene, the fourth and final scene, we'll finally see the future again because now's future that we see in the current version is not the future anymore. But scene number four will finally get us back to the future. This scene will be a reimagined finale where the family lives off planet in an out of this world home, complete
Wow.
with, yeah, right? Complete with helpful robots and space travel. But Disney says the new finale will draw inspiration from original Carousel of Progress concept art and Walt's vision of tomorrow. Rather than trying to predict specific gadgets, sounds like Disney wants to focus on the spirit of innovation and optimism, which is, I think, exactly how Walt would have done it. So when I read this, I think Horizons. That sounds exactly like the old Horizons. I mean, robot butlers and living off the planet. I don't know if that's what they're going to do,
That would be
but
cool.
I certainly hope there's some sort of nod or
That's a great
reference
callback.
or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that looks or sounds like Horizons. I think and I know that the Imagineers are trying to do that better now, trying to uh, refer back to previous attractions and stuff. They've got a couple of nods to the old World of Motion and the new version of Test Track. And a lot of that stuff is the Imagineers are looking back at that kind of thing. So I think this would be an amazing opportunity to somehow put in a little bit of Horizons or reference or something. What do you guys think about that?
I think that I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm with you. I think it also makes the opportunity for the ride to um, have a little more longevity because if you're not going to focus on actual little gadgets and things like that, that you're looking at concepts versus that. I think that you give some more longevity to the end result.
If you're putting things in there that we may never achieve,
Then
like
yeah,
Horizons did, then you're not going to pass it,
right,
like the current finale has. So that's
right.
cool. All right, so part four is now we've gone through all the scenes. I want to talk about technology improvements. So it's not just a script update. Disney is also modernizing the attraction itself. The new Walt audio animatronic will utilize Disney's latest figure technology. Imagineering has spent years advancing movement systems, facial animation, and show control technology, and those advancements are expected to be incorporated throughout the new attraction. Disney has also indicated that all of the scenes will be rebuilt around these new eras. That means refreshed sets, modern show lighting, improved music and sound, enhanced effects, and new storytelling elements. So let's be honest, the current version has earned its retirement. And when I see it, and John's there holding the fan in the 1920s era, and his hand is usually like skewed kind of in a weird position, and when he's moving the fan and stuff, I mean, it's you could tell that it's 1960s 1970s technology, right? So I'm excited for an update, a refresh. It definitely needs new sound and everything. So hopefully Disney doesn't cheap out on us and really goes through every aspect of this attraction, and fine tooth comb, hopefully just really does it right. um
So, and you may be getting ready to go to this question, I don't know, but aren't you going to miss it?
of course, absolutely, absolutely. um But yeah, I mean, no doubt about it, I'll miss it. But this is, like I said earlier, this is best case scenario that they're not going to destroy it. They're not going to
Yeah,
bulldoze it and build a Moana attraction or something. Um, they're refurbishing it, and
yeah.
we always talk about refurbish, not replace.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
uh,
I'm with you there. But as I stop and think, it's unfortunate. I don't know that unfortunate's the right word because you can go out and watch it on the different YouTube channels and things. And to your point, the refurbishing, which is always good. I just think it will remove some of that nostalgia that you feel when you go to Walt Disney.
Probably, but now, like you and I and Tony have just spent the last hour talking about, especially the 80s section. We're going to have nostalgia for it because it's going to be eras that we lived through. So there's going to be new kind of nostalgia, right?
Oh,
And then,
absolutely.
so I think there's still opportunity there for nostalgia to be there for us.
I think for
So
the final scene, it'll be fun to see what kind of new things they put in there because that will make the ride repeatable. Each time you go, you want to look for something different that you didn't see before.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's going to be hidden Mickeys in it somewhere. There's going to be lots of fun things to look for and
Well, and
experience.
yeah, I think they could have some fun and bring that mission Space. It's not Mission Space, but it's the restaurant right there by Mission Space. I can't think of the name of it, but they to make the home look like it's sitting in space. It's going to be fun to see what they do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, final thoughts. Let's. I just prepared a little bit of something. You guys can go off the cuff here, but and this kind of answers your question, Ron. So, final thoughts. I love Carousel of Progress for many reasons. It's one of the last attractions Walt personally touched. But I also believe that Walt would have wanted it updated. I mean, even Disneyland, before he passed away, Disneyland was only 11 years old when he died, but they were already making improvements and changes and doing things, changing things from the original Disneyland. It was, um, you know what I mean? So this traction is literally about progress. It's in the name. So there's no way that Walt wouldn't have wanted to update this. Keeping it frozen in 1994 feels contrary to its original purpose. So as long as Disney preserves the heart of the show, which to me is centered around the family and all of that. Um, I know some fans don't want anything to change, and I used to be one of those kind of guys, I think. But the new and improved and kindler, gentler Dewey is trying to embrace change a little better, and I'm actually excited about it. This one of my all-time favorites, but they're not killing it. It's not going away. They're just going to move it forward a little bit and better technology, better sound, better all of that. I'm here for that. I'm excited. Um, and it's not the same show. Even in our lifetime, it's not the same show. It's already changed. They changed from the original Disney World version in the 70s to 1994. It changed,
And
and
changed probably from the original one in the World's Fair as well.
it is certainly not the same version from the World's Fair. So the show has gone through many changes and updates since its debut in 64 anyway. So I think you can go on YouTube and watch videos of the original. And then it changed from when it was at the World's Fair to when it got to Disneyland. It changed a little bit. And it definitely changed when they brought it to Disney World. So nobody ever said this show was going to should be stuck and not change. It literally is called the Carousel of Progress. And how can you call it that if the show itself doesn't advance, doesn't change? So, what I want to see in this is I want to see Disney dream again, not just show us smart refrigerators, but show us optimism, show us possibility, show us that great big beautiful tomorrow that the Sherman brothers wrote the song about. This that's part of this attraction's DNA. And I want some of that optimism from the future that you saw in Horizons and that you saw in every iteration of the Carousel of Progress. That's what I want to see. I want to see that same sense of hope and optimism. And so I'm excited about that. What do you guys think? Your final thoughts on these changes?
I think I'm in agreement with you. It's a ride I love. I'm super thrilled they didn't bulldoze it, and I'm excited to see how they make these changes. I think the nod to Walt Disney World for the intro is an incredible way to intro it. To your point, will I miss the old? I will, but having the opportunity to see it, if I want to on YouTube, is a great way to keep it alive. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it and excited about it, and was thrilled when I heard that they were going to do the changes. I do hope that they don't use um the video face. I don't like the video face.
I think
Uh
they're getting away from that anyway. They just replaced the video faces on Elsa and Anna in Epcot at the Norway Pavilion. They just
okay.
replaced those. So I think they're getting away from those. I think you won't have to worry about that.
So yeah,
It's going to look more like the Hall of Presidents animatronics, those kind.
yeah. So, and they could use a little bit of refurbishment there too. But anyway, um, it's yeah, I'm looking forward to it and excited about it.
How about you, Tony?
Oh, absolutely. Just going on with what you guys said. Definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with it. It's an old favorite, but we've seen it many, many times, and it's progress. We have to see what the idea of what the world could be is like. So then I'm definitely all for it.
Awesome. Me too. I'm excited. So that's our look at the future of Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. For now, you've still got a little time left to experience the current version one more time. If you go ride it, sing along, appreciate the history, because soon Progress will be moving forward once again. This attraction is scheduled to close on July 6th, 2026, and is expected to reopen sometime in 2027 with its new scenes and Walt Disney's introduction. So, my family will be going to see it probably a couple of times in the next few weeks to make sure that we see it a couple more times before it's gone.
It'll give you a good opportunity to really experience it and be able to experience what they make changes to and what if it, because it can be kind of jerky, and I'm wondering if they um really enhance the whole ride experience too.
So I know this is probably a long shot and I doubt Disney will do it, but I wish they would just box this thing up and send it back to Disneyland and put it back in its original home in Tomorrowland at
Yeah, I
Disneyland.
think that space is empty at the moment, so that would be a good place that they should put it
I
back.
I know. I think that would be perfect, but I doubt they do that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was great. Great discussion on the Carousel of Progress. So let's move on over to the next section. This is a section we like to call What's Your Favorite? Each episode, one of our hosts brings with them a question to ask the other two guys. Those two hosts don't know the question ahead of recording and must answer the question on the spot. I'm going to pose today's What's Your Favorite? So, Ron and Tony, since we're talking about the Carousel of Progress and it's going to be changing very soon, let's stay on that topic. And you guys tell me, in the current version of the Carousel of Progress, what is your favorite scene? You've got the turn of the century, you've got the 20s, the 40s, and then you've got the future. So, of the current version of Carousel of Progress, which is your favorite scene? We'll start with you, Ron.
Yeah, I think it's the one where it's the 4th of July. I don't know which exactly where that falls. I think it's the second one.
That's the 20s, uh-huh.
Yeah. I just really enjoy it. I think they do a really good job of getting you there in the moment with it. And I just like that scene a lot. I don't know what it is. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron. Tony, what about you in the current version of Carousel of Progress? Which is your favorite scene?
Well, actually, I always like as far as a part of a scene, I always like the scenes with Uncle Orville. But the I guess my favorite scene would be the finale. I always look forward to what they're going to do there. So the idea that you just said with the space thing sounds even more intriguing. But the final scene is always fun to me, and the fact that we're kind of living that now is even funny when you tell Alexa or something to do something and it doesn't want to do it. We're living that.
So I think I'm with Ron on this one. Mine is the 4th of July scene as well. I like um,
That the
their
sarsaparilla scene.
yeah, it's you just got to pick one because they're all great. They're all
They
funny. They
are all
all
great. Yeah.
have
They call it
um,
rush hour traffic. I think
yeah, the
about
rat
that all the
race.
time. Yeah, the rat race.
That I mean, you could make an argument for all the
Yeah.
scenes. I think I like they're picking the music and it's patriotic music and everything, and they're um the daughters dressed like the Statue of Liberty. I just always I like that one. It's always I'm you know retired military. I consider myself pretty patriotic and everything, so that one's always just kind of stuck with me. So all right, awesome. So That just about does it for this episode of the WDW Reflections Podcast. Please find and follow us on all of our social media accounts. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WDW Reflections Podcast, and on X at WDW Reflections. This podcast can currently be found and played on many podcast platforms, and we'd love it if you'd give the show a follow wherever you listen. And if you love the show, please leave us some feedback on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Those positive feedbacks help the show reach a larger audience and helps us grow. Make sure you check out the website at wdwreflectionspodcast.com. And don't forget, you can always message us from any of those social media accounts, or you can email us at wdwreflectionspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And please keep coming back because we truly appreciate you. Thanks for reflecting on Walt Disney World memories with us on the WDW Reflections Podcast. See you real soon.
Yes, Sarah. You know, next year I'd like to go as Benedict Arnold.
Wait until you see what I've got planned for the fireworks show tonight.
Grover, don't interrupt while Sarah's interrupting.
No privacy at all around this place.
Sorry, Orville.